I love the question. Eating is a lot of fun. All the food floats, so I try to eat dinner with no hands, if you can believe it. But in terms of swallowing and trying to chew your food, it feels just like on the ground. As for walking, I haven't walked for, I'd say about 200 days now. I've been flying around the space station, so in a couple weeks I'm going to land and be able to walk for the first time. Over. That is a great question. So on October 3rd, I'm actually going to return to Earth. It's the end of my mission. So we're going to get in our Soyuz vehicle, and it has a capsule that's very similar to, say, the capsules that took men to the moon, the Apollo capsule. So it's going to come back in, re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, and use drag to heat up and lose all of our energy through heat and slow us down. And then we have a big parachute that brings us softly down to the ground. Over. It is the most amazing feeling. You know, I think the best way you could try to simulate it is if you were in a pool and you were underwater holding your breath and you just floated there. I've felt like that for the last 7 months. I get to somersault and do tricks and fly around corners. It's just amazing. Over. Ashley, well, you know, it's really hard because not only do I float, but water floats too. So it's not like I can have a shower rain down on me to clean off. So we basically just wet a towel that has some soap in it, and then we rub our skin to get clean and then dry off. Over. Well, it's not as easy on the ground because gravity doesn't help take everything down. So we have to find another force to be able to help us out. So we use basically a toilet that has a vacuum cleaner attached to it so that it sucks everything in. Over. Yes, so it's football season, so I'm going to use a football analogy. I love them. So if I want to throw a pass down the field, I've got to throw the ball up so that it can go down the field, but I also have to throw it far. And so it's vertical velocity and horizontal velocity. If I throw the ball just straight up, then the ball comes straight down and it didn't go anywhere. So now imagine I try to throw that ball as far as I can down the field. So now it has a nice big arc to it. And that curve, if I throw the ball fast enough, that curve of that arc for the football is going to match the curve of the Earth because the Earth is a sphere. And so the magic number that we have up here to stay in orbit is 17,500 miles per hour. That's about 5 miles a second. That's how fast we need to go in order to match the curve of the Earth. Over. It's the best sleep I've ever had. I turn on a little music and I close my eyes and I fall asleep. And I'm in a sleeping bag, but the sleeping bag just kind of keeps me cozy, and I've got it very loosely tied to the wall so that I don't float away. But it lets me just kind of float in place, and my body finds a natural position, and I sleep 8 hours a night like a baby. Over. You know, so when I look out into space, space looks very similar to compared to what you could see on the ground. The moon is about the same size. We're only 250 miles up, and the moon is 250,000 miles away from the Earth. So we're not much closer, so the moon looks about the same, and the stars in the Milky Way look about the same. I think I can see more stars, and I see more of the Milky Way because I don't have to look through the atmosphere. The biggest difference is I can also see the Earth at the same time. And so I can fly over the United States, and I can see almost from the Canadian border down to the Mexican border, all in one view from left to right, as we fly over and take in the entire United States all in one shot. It's amazing. Over. You know, we're only 250 miles away from the surface of the Earth, so we get as close to the sun as you do. Over. Well, part of our training is for everybody to have some level of medical training so that we can help each other if we get hurt. Now, I'm also fortunate because one of the astronauts up here is also a doctor, so he can help me out. But, you know, we're not anywhere near a hospital, so if things are bad enough, we would get in our Soyuz and land early. Over. You know, Brittany, that's one of the questions we're trying to answer up here. You know, I'm going to be up here 7 months. I've got a crewmate, Drew Morgan's going to be up here 9 months, and another crewmate, Christina Cook, who's going to be up here 11 months. And so we're doing research to see how the human body adapts to space, because if we're going to go to the moon, we're going to have to spend extended time in space, and when we go to Mars, we're going to have to spend even more time in space. And so we need to figure out how we can survive. Over. You know, Daniel, so we use the electromagnetic spectrum, just different parts of it. We have direct line of sight with UHF radios, and then we also use KU band radios through relay satellites, but it all involves electromagnetic spectrum. Over. When I launched on my rocket, it was 8 minutes and 48 seconds from liftoff until the engines cut off and we were in orbit. It's one of the most thrilling rides I've ever had. Over. You know, Abby, that's important. You know, we're in orbit and we'll stay in orbit for a long time, but we also need to, if there's something in our way that we may collide with, we need to move out of the way so that we don't have that accident. So we have engines that we can fire in order to move our orbit, to add energy and make our orbit grow, or take energy away and make our orbit shrink. Over. Well, so we're up here to study what happens when gravity isn't the dominant force. Because we are in orbit, everything is falling together. So one of the biggest things is nothing separates. More dense solids don't sink to the bottom of a glass or the bottom of a tube. They just float in the middle of all the other fluid. Things don't separate because gravity's pulling heavier things down and letting lighter things go to the top. Everything just stays mixed up here. Over. Yes, it can be a challenge. When we go EVA for a spacewalk, when we go outside for a spacewalk, it's a 6.5-hour spacewalk. But it takes 5 hours before we ever start that, and most of that is getting in the spacesuit and getting ready to go out. So it's a pretty complicated process. Over. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed your questions. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Over and out. And 1 Kilo, India Kilo 1, Sierra Lima Delta. This is Oscar Romeo 4, India Sierra Sierra. Just want to extend a thank you to providing that contact with the Northridge Elementary School. I appreciate it. Over.